Istanbul summit, a handshake with the right hand, a gun in the left. In Istanbul, amid the rumble of NATO exercises in Georgia, just south of Russia, a sensitive meeting was held that brought together Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and former U.S. President Donald Trump. Some describe the gathering as the last chance for peace before the outbreak of a war that could plunge Europe back into post-World War II devastation. The scene resembles a handshake with the right hand while holding a pistol in the left. As warnings grow louder about a full-scale European-Russian war that could ravage everything within 2 years, the very voices issuing these warnings are often the same ones beating the drums of war. Behind the scenes, whispers circulate in Poland and Georgia, with claims that Britain is pushing Eastern Europe to stand against Moscow. The U.S. Secretary of State stated that Trump remains determined to end the war in Ukraine. He confirmed that Trump reached out to Erdogan, requesting him to inform both Putin and Zelensky of an invitation to a meeting in Turkey. Trump reportedly told Erdogan, "You let me down. Set the date, inform them, and I'll meet you all in Istanbul." Erdogan, taken aback, responded, "And why should I be the one to inform them? Why don't you do it yourself? Aren't you the one claiming to be the leader of the world? Don't you insert yourself into every international issue? Didn't you personally intervene when conflict erupted between Thailand and Cambodia?" Erdogan seemed to imply that American involvement in every regional conflict is far from innocent, often serving as a vehicle for restoring U.S. dominance in Asia. Nations like Vietnam still carry painful collective memories of U.S. atrocities committed 60 decades ago, wounds that, despite the passage of time, remain vividly present. If Trump truly seeks peace between Moscow and Kyiv, he must offer personal guarantees. Peace is not cooked up in locked rooms. Whoever wants to host a feast must step into the kitchen, not merely invite others to serve the meal. The Turkish president knew that Zelensky had long been waiting for such an invitation. He had previously visited Ankara for a similar meeting, which fell apart when Putin didn't attend, even though Zelensky waited a full day. Now Trump again wants Erdogan to initiate contact with Putin. But this time, Putin was clear. He declined the meeting, explaining that Europe, especially Russia's neighboring countries, has turned into a heavily mined zone. It is illogical, he argued, to ask Russia to attend peace conferences by day while military forces, weapons, and equipment mobilized by night near its borders. Zelensky, sitting on the Yildiz Palace wall waiting for Putin, is the same man who sent his troops to participate in military drills in Georgia. Yes, Georgia, the Black Sea country that was once part of the Soviet Union. Its first president after independence was Edward Shevardnadze, Gorbachev's foreign minister, and the architect of perestroika, instantly recalling the final moments of Soviet communism. Today, Georgia aspires to join NATO, something Moscow sees as an existential threat. The idea of Georgia joining the Atlantic Alliance is more than a political ambition. It's a deliberate move to break a strategic Russian flank in the south. Europe and the U.S. don't open such files arbitrarily. They aim to create a new front against Moscow on the Black Sea. Russia now finds itself tasked with securing borders stretching 60,000 kilometers, including 20,000 kilometers of coastline, surpassing even the Earth's circumference of 40,000 kilometers. Russia must deploy forces on its southwestern front near the Black Sea without compromising its edge in the Ukraine battlefield. Meanwhile, the Polish border is saturated with NATO traps, 200 kilometers of long-range missiles and artillery, backed by operational military air bases. Warsaw is actively preparing scenarios of direct confrontation with Russia. Historical animosity with Moscow, dating back to Stalin and Brezhnev, fuels Poland's lingering desire for revenge. Eastern European states with Western leanings like Poland, Czechia, Ukraine, and Georgia fear potential Russian expansion. Their anxiety has grown amid the failure of nuclear disarmament negotiations and the stagnation of ballistic missile treaty talks. These nations believe that their plea for U.S. protection after gaining independence permanently places them in Russia's crosshairs. Should Russia triumph in Ukraine, its first step would likely be to block any Western-aligned government in Kyiv, replacing it with a political regime closely tied to Moscow, either via ethnic Russian figures or those with deep intelligence ties. That would pave the way for a mutual defense treaty allowing Russian troop deployment near Ukraine's western borders. From there, Russian missile systems could directly target Poland's Ministry of Defense from inside Ukrainian territory. Once Russia regains control over Kyiv, Georgia would likely be the next target. Without firing a single shot, political leadership in Tbilisi could shift towards figures with historical links to Moscow, opening the door for Russia to re-establish dominance over the region. Yet the most dangerous flashpoint is neither Ukraine nor Georgia, but Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a Russian exclave on the Baltic Sea, geographically separated from mainland Russia and sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. It spans 15,000 square kilometers, larger than Lebanon, and lies about 400 kilometers from Russian territory. Today, it represents one of the most intense military flashpoints between Moscow and Europe. It hosts a massive Russian naval base, is Kandor missile launchers capable of carrying nuclear warheads, and advanced air defense systems that extend coverage as far as Iceland. To European eyes, Kaliningrad is a ticking bomb, threatening continental security. But for Russia to defend it, it must pass through other nations' territories, an exceedingly complex proposition. The U.S. military, through its commander for Europe and Africa, General Christopher Donahue, stated bluntly that NATO plans to neutralize Russia's defense capabilities in Kaliningrad under the doctrine of Eastern Flank deterrence. Russia didn't take long to respond. Moscow declared that Kaliningrad is an inseparable part of its territory, and any attack would provoke a full-spectrum response, including nuclear retaliation. A senior advisor to President Putin stated unequivocally, "The response will be immediate, overwhelming, and comprehensive. It may include the implementation of Russia's nuclear deterrence doctrine." Thus, Russia now finds itself encircled by 4 active or latent fronts. 1. Ukraine, where combat is ongoing. 2. Georgia, where tensions are silently simmering. 3. Kaliningrad, an explosive enclave. And 4. Greenland, the least expected but highly sensitive frontier. Moscow has officially rejected U.S. attempts to assert control over Greenland, a Danish territory, arguing that such moves bring Washington dangerously close to Russian spheres of influence in the Arctic. This may ignite new tensions between the U.S. and North Sea nations, possibly forcing Denmark and its allies to align with Russia in defiance of American arrogance. This issue goes beyond the war in Ukraine. It is now part of a global arc of conflict, stretching from Eastern Europe to the Middle East, from South Asia to the South China Sea. Whenever tensions flare in one region, pressure valves release elsewhere, suggesting that the world may be inching towards a calculated, gradual explosion. The Arab region, amid this global unrest, risks becoming a secondary battleground for settling major power disputes. As dialogue among global powers continues to break down, the Middle East remains the weakest link, vulnerable economically, politically, and in terms of stability. There will be no real progress or sustainable investment without peace and security. And if this arc of fire is not extinguished, fragmented and divided nations will be the first to burn in its ashes.